Hola, mi gente. What's up? Welcome to another episode of El Jangueo, the hangout with Jonathan Mejia. You know it all. You know me. I'm a news reporter, but this is my space to come out and hang out to highlight the Hispanic Latinos in the Houston area and across the world. Well, today I have what he's known as America's DJ, but really we're here to know more about Calvin. Calvin, welcome to El Jangueo, the hangout. How are you?
Hey, happy to be here.
Calvin, amazing journey, amazing life story, amazing career. Let's talk about Calvin and your trajectory. What was life like for you? What was life growing up?
Uh, I grew up in Dallas. I started playing the violin at the age of 6, and I played all the way through college. Um, my parents were preachers. Uh, I went to preparatory high school. Um, I consider myself a normal kid. You know, I didn't really do much of anything extraordinary in high school, but make good grades and stay out of trouble.
Stay out of trouble, make good grades, and then we see your career just take off. Talk to us about entering what this music industry is as a DJ.
Yeah, I had no intentions of ever being a DJ. I never had the goal of being a DJ. I went to school for my undergrad was in computer information systems, and I got my MBA from Howard. And my goal was to stay in corporate America and work. When I was about, I want to say 21, 22, I started playing around with DJ software, and one of my friends was like, "Hey, you want to DJ my birthday party?" And I'm like, "I'm not a DJ, but like, I can help you out." And then someone was like, "Hey, we're having this party down in DC." I was living in the New Jersey area at the time, and I'm like, I'm not really a DJ, but I can help you out. At that party, there were these club promoters, and they came up to me. It was a Halloween party in the clubhouse of an apartment building, and they said, do you do clubs? Are you a DJ?" Didn't even have a DJ name, but I'm like, yes, of course I'm a DJ. At this time, I figured out the spiel that I needed. My very first time in the club, I opened up for Danny D. Kane, and that was the very beginning of my club career. I was parading as a DJ, but I worked it out. I walked in there, I did that gig, and then I remember I went home with no intentions of going further. I felt like it was a great accomplishment. I had no idea what the world had in store for me.
And I feel like that's such an important lesson, right? Saying yes even when you don't feel prepared, saying yes when you don't feel like you have the experience, just saying yes and making yourself available.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was one of those crazy moments where it was kind of ordained. If if you're spiritual, if you feel that way, uh, I was just in the right place at the right time, and I felt like that with for my entire DJ career and my entertainment space careers, that I've always just ended up in the right place at the right time, and I executed. And so it's just I'm grateful.
You talk about being at the right place at the right time and executing. I feel like when I first saw you was at the Kamala Harris rally here in Houston when she was the vice president at that time. And I can tell you, you had that stadium jumping. Like, it was amazing. The energy was
Thank
amazing.
you.
And I was like, man, I got to meet this guy. And when I had this idea of this show, I was like, I got to have him on this show. So talk to us about the name DJ Tryfe, right? Because you say you didn't have a name, you didn't have a DJ. So where does Trife comes from?
Oh man, Trife comes from undergrad. It comes from the illustrious Howard University. Shout out to Howard. Um, I joke a lot, and I have a bubbly personality when I'm really comfortable with people. And my friends used to be like, "You're so trifling," because I'm always joking. And so one day I was like, "Well, you should put some respect on my name and call me Mr. Trife." And that's where it got started. And so on social media in undergrad, I was known as Mr. Trife. When I started DJing, I actually went through a couple different names. And then one day, someone was like, "Oh, it's DJ Trife." And I was just like, "Okay, cool. I'll roll with that." And that's where Trife got started. It was born out of my friends joking with me, and it became like my social media brand. And social media for millennials, once you get a social handle, it's like the representation of yourself.
Honestly and truly. So from DJ Trife to playing for Vice President Kamala Harris at her rally, talk to us about that day, the preparation. I'm imagining it's just such a whirlwind.
Playing for the vice president, opening up for Beyonce, it is a whole ordeal, and it's not something that you can just kind of get up and do. There are a lot of checks and balances and a lot of things that you kind of have to be aware of when you're stepping on a stage that big. Speaking of that day, I had less than 30 hours to prepare. So the rally was on a Friday. I got the call Wednesday night around 4 or 5 p.m. Everything wasn't confirmed until Thursday morning, which they confirmed that I needed to be on the plane that night and ready to have sound check by 8 a.m. It was scary because what am I going to wear? What am I going to play? Who's going to be there? Will Beyonce hear me?
And we were all there like, is she going to perform? Is she not going to perform? Because they said she's going to be there, but they didn't say anything, right? So you're just like, us as the media and people attending, we're like, okay, Mother's here, but what is she going to do? And I'm excited for you when you're like, okay, you need to make sure you keep the energy up. You're like, oh my God, Beyonce's going to hear my set list.
Beyonce could literally be listening to my set list. I was concerned about that, but that was not my biggest priority. My priority that day was to make sure that people recognized the movement that was ensuing in front of us, the importance of that day, to spread joy, to make sure that everybody in that stadium left better than how they came. I wasn't really concerned about turning up the stadium and turning it into a party. Never my intention. My intention was really to set the atmosphere and the stage for people to be excited for Kamala Harris, to be excited for the first Black woman to be to be running for president. Well, she's not the first Black woman. Shirley Chisholm is the first one. Is it Shirley Chisholm? I think it's her name. It was that. It was getting ready for that. When we got to Houston, we did our sound check around 7 or 8 in the morning. And afterwards, I sat with my team and we went through every single song, every single lyric, every single artist, who they are in the media, if they have pending trials or anything like that. We went through all those things because we didn't want anything to distract from the moment that was in front of us. I had no idea it was going to be 30,000 people there. I had no idea that 9 million people were going to be watching online. I just wanted to go out there and get everybody as excited as I was for Kamala Harris and for just change in America. I think at that time we all were clamoring for some piece of happiness, and I'll say majority of us in America did not want to go in the direction that this country decided to go. So it was a lot of things on my shoulders that day, but I tried to remove all the pressure and just focused on joy and having a good time.
So you talk about, obviously the momentum in that moment, which was huge because at that time during the political landscape, it was like Kamala Harris was gaining traction. President
She had 100 days.
Yeah, it was a lot. A lot was going on, and I feel like you captured the moment and what you wanted to set out and do. You did it because, we left out there like, and I say we, but the people who attended in general were just like, okay, we just left this major rally. Aside from the political stuff, but like the ambiance, the energy was there.
We felt there was no way she could lose.
So you see that picture there. You're there with Kamala Harris. Did you ever think your journey, your story would bring you to the White House, to all these major figures in the United States?
No, I did not. When you enter the entertainment space, the last place you think it's going to take you is the White House. The last place you think it's going to take you is at the time when we did it, it was the largest political rally in American history. Like you don't have that on your roadmap or on your vision board for places that you want to be. But as I said earlier, I always find myself in the right place at the right time. All of those gigs last year that I did kind of all stemmed from one party I did last April. And kind of to step back a little bit from the rally, last February, I actually stopped DJing. Like I text my friends, my father was passing, and I was just like, I'm done DJing. I want to move on and do something else. And my manager, we got a call to do it's Time Magazine, Amazon, and MGM Studios. They do a party at the Swiss Ambassador's home every year for the White House Correspondents' Dinner the after party. Got a call to do this party, and I'm like, oh, it's at the Swiss Ambassador's home. I'm like, oh, I'm going to Switzerland. Like, it's technically in Switzerland. I get there, and I want to say 2 days before the gig, we get a call, and they're like, hey, do you guys know a Jermaine Dupri? He's coming, and he wants to do like an hour set. We just want to know if Trife would be okay with Jermaine Dupri hopping on the wheels with him. And I'm like, hell yes. So I hop on that, we do that party together, and at that party, Kamala's staff was there, and Vice President Kamala Harris and Joe Biden's staff was there, and they heard me play at that party, the party that I said I didn't want to do, the party I said prior done with DJing. They heard me, and so from there they came up to me, like, we would love for you to do the Pride event at the Vice President's home.
And that's where I wanted to go next, right? Because you say yes and you make yourself available to every situation that presents yourself to. But again, representation matters. What did it mean for you to not only be a black man, but, you know, you said it yourself, you're a black gay man, and you get to go to the White House and during Pride Month play a set?
Obviously I'm a millennial, so, you know, gay marriage was not legal until I was in college. So when I think about my life and how I envisioned it, I never thought of it as an openly outward gay lifestyle. I never thought I would be afforded that opportunity to live that way, let alone would I be carrying pride banners and standing behind them. So to be offered the opportunity to share my gift, not just because I'm talented, but because of just who I am, and for that space to be made for me is just one of those unbelievable things. When you think about the White House and me standing on the portico steps DJing and amongst these pride banners, this is the same White House that 20 or 30 years ago ignored the HIV endemic in this country. They let the White House, and I'm saying the administration at the time, ignored a large part of my community. And so to think that they would be now celebrating us and inviting us to have cocktails and dancing is completely crazy. When I think about the White House, I drove there. Like, my mom was in the car with me. I drove to the White House. Like, the gates opened up and I drove in. I walk inside and they take me to my dressing room, and my dressing room is the same dressing room that B.B. King used, that Aretha Franklin used. And you know, Michelle Obama's portrait is standing next to the door of my dressing room. And it's so much history, and it's one of those things where it's like, as a child of an immigrant, as a black man, as a gay man, this is never where I saw myself standing, and this is never where I saw myself being welcomed. I thought if I made it to the White House, maybe for work or for a company or something, but not for me. Like, they were waiting on me. It's unbelievable, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity. And my biggest goal is to make sure that other people have those same opportunities behind me, that I'm not just opening the door and closing it behind me, but I'm leaving it open and bringing on other people into these spaces. And it's kind of proving that if you are gay, you can still DJ straight spaces. And I also think the inverse is true. If you are straight, you can DJ gay spaces. But I'm hoping to start tearing down the walls of, like, if you are this, you can only do this. And that's just not the case. It's something that I hope we can continue to tear those walls down.
Yeah. Another thing you mentioned, right, and that's one thing that stood out to me at the rally. You said, you know, I'm Afro-Cuban. My parents, my father's from Cuba. So I think, again, just representation on so many levels. Afro-Cubano, hablas español un poco.
Just a little bit.
Un poquito.
Yeah.
When you just think about, you know, because it's an amazing journey that you're on, but again, you're representing so many people. I'm pretty sure your father never imagined that I would leave my island of Cuba to come to America, and my son one day will play on the grandest stage.
No. I hate he didn't get to see it. My father passed last February. So he passed right before everything started to take off. I do feel like that he's with me, and he's been on that journey with me. But I know it's his wildest dreams. I think about my grandmother too, who's like, you know, you raise these kids in Cuba, and to get them to the States is one thing. And it's not just the role of immigrating to a different country, which is difficult in itself, but it's immigrating from a communist country into whatever we'll call America is today. And it's the language barrier. Like, there are a lot of layers to the difficulties that they had to endure, or obstacles they had to get over. So to be able to do the things that I've done, I feel like I am telling them thank you in my way of like the work that you did, the things that you gave up, the life that you left. It wasn't in vain. And I'm not done. So
You're not done.
no, I'm
So
not
talk to us
done.
about what you're doing now, because you are transitioning from, being at nightclubs to now consulting.
Yeah. Um, so I have a consulting company. It's called Seino and Trife. And Seino is my last name. Trife is obviously my stage name. And I'm combining both. And it's using my education, my experience, and connections and networks in this industry. But I help restaurants, lounges, bars, if you're out there anywhere in the country, I help them build out their musical programming. Uh, a lot of times when you open up a spot, you may say, okay, I want to have a DJ, or I want to attract these type of people or have these type of vibes. And that is 100% done through the music, not necessarily what the DJ looks like, but sonically what they sound like. And what that DJ sounds like, that is what will attract the certain audiences that you want. So I help people bring in the crowds that they want and set the atmosphere and the ambience that they want in their spaces. And they can outsource it all. You don't need to worry about, okay, if I want to do a Caribbean night or a Spanish night or an R&B night, you don't need to worry about, I need to find people that are going to help build out my space or help attract people to my space. You don't have to worry about any of those things. I take care of all of those things. And I think it's a great space and a great niche space because it's a job that really only I can do because it's based on my connections and what I see and hear. And it's regurgitating all of my experience over and over and over again. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on right now is building that. I have a foundation called the Veribus Foundation, and Veribus stands for Strength in Latin. The foundation is about 6 or 7 years old, and we raise funds and awareness for Black and brown men to get therapy, to provide free therapy for them, and just the awareness of you can struggle. And I have friends who've known me for years to know that like mental health has been one of the things that I have struggled with. But you can struggle. You can get help. You can get on meds if you need to. Like all of these things are available to us, and within our community, the Black and the brown community, it's a huge stigma against that. And so I want to use my platform to show people that like you can be extremely successful and you can still have to see your therapist. And I use the words have to, or need. You may need to get on antidepressants. Like all of these things are tools in our tool belt, in our tool chest that help us move forward. And if anyone can look at me and say, okay, hey, he was at the White House. Hey, he opened up for Beyonce at the rally. I also buried my dad and my grandfather that year. I also was dealing with a lot of things personally, and it's a part of life. So I want to use my foundation to continue to share with people that things may be amazing publicly, or you may see people having great lives, but they also may struggle internally, and we should support everyone and push everyone to be able to get the help that we need. So consulting, my foundation, and then right now I just finished a collaboration with Serato. So Serato is a DJ software company for the layman people out there. There are only like 2 or 3 DJ softwares, going on. Serato is the industry leader. They reached out to me and asked me to collaborate with them on a project, and it was released on Apple Music. So if you do listen to Apple Music, type in Trife, Tryfe, and you can listen to that mix. But that project, I'm really excited about it. One, I also get streaming royalties and all that. Like Serato really looked out with that. But I decided, they asked me to give my representation of the dance floor. And so in that mix, it's only an hour. It's about 40% Black queer artists, and it's intentional. I put artists on there that people don't usually hear or won't usually include. We even had conversations on the back end because some of the context, the subject matter that they were singing or rapping about is different. They were rapping about gay sex, and people were like, well, I don't know about that. And I'm like, but same tracks on here, women are saying the same things. And so if we're going to stand on that, then we need to stand on it across the board. And so it's using my platform to push other artists and to fight for us on the back end, where most queer rappers or singers will not get platformed on mixes or playlists, and DJs for sure won't do that. That make it to the place that I am of being able to release stuff on Apple Music. So that was my goal with that project, is to make sure that I platform people, and we're not done. So I plan to do a live recording of it and to release that and some other things that are mixing in the background. And then later on this year, I have a tour cooking that I'm going to be touring. It's a smallest tour, like 7 or 8 cities.
You gotta include Houston there.
Houston is obviously
You gotta
included,
include
and we're going
Houston.
to end in Houston.
Awesome.
So the goal is to end in Houston. We're starting August 8th in DC, and we plan to end in late October. It has to cool down.
All right, it has to cool down, and El Jangueo definitely has to be there.
Yes.
I want to be there with you. We're gonna make it happen. What does music mean to you as we close out?
Music is the language of our emotions. I actually have it tattooed on my chest. It says the language of emotion. When I think about music, I think that, like, if I'm sad, if I'm happy, I can find a song to nurture me in that space. And as a creative, if I'm sad, if I'm happy, if I'm mad, I can put that out into music. It may be a minor key if I'm sad, or a major key if I'm excited and I want an anthem. But music allows us to have those expressions of our music without having to use our words or our bodies sometimes. You can get that out. For me, it is where I find solace when it comes to whatever I'm going through. If I'm having a hard day, I usually like, I want to go DJ. Like, some days I'll just wake up and I'll text a club. I'm like, I'm coming in tonight because I got to get this off. I got to get this out of me. And so it's a way of expression. And when you think about music outside of not just what we tend to hear, if you travel across the country and you hear other people create, you can feel what they're trying to convey through that music. If it's a sad song, if it's a song that you should get up and dance to, you can feel that. You don't have to know the language. You don't have to know the song. If you walk into a church on Sunday morning, you can feel the uplifting spirit of these songs. And you don't have to be whatever religion that is, but that is music to me. It allows us to have these emotional conversations without having to speak those words, unless you're singing them, right? That's where it is for me. And if you were to go look at my, like, Apple Music, how many minutes I listen to music a day, I probably listen to music maybe 7 hours out of the day.
Wow.
Like, I wake up in the morning and it's music.
Wow.
If I have to clean the house, it's music. I'm getting in the car, music.
Yeah.
It's what sustains me. It's what keeps me going. They say, like, we think about house music. They say house music is like cures depression because the BPM is about 125. It's about the pace of a heart. So that drive kind of gets you, make you want to move, and it's going to the pace of like a high energy heart rate, not a 125 BPMs. Your heart beating. It's about a high energy song. It's not you on the Stairmaster or running. But that's music to me. Music is whatever emotions that I'm experiencing, whatever I'm feeling, I can find a song or create it or mix it to express that and to hear that expression from other people.
That's awesome. Calvin, in 45 seconds, can you give advice to anyone out there that may be watching this about following their dreams and just being their authentic selves?
I can. What I will say is the most important thing is to learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. You grow the most when you are in your uncomfortable space. If you find yourself in your craft, in your artistry, where you're comfortable, where you're not really nervous anymore, you've probably outgrown that space and you're probably not growing. So you want to make sure that you're constantly a little nervous, that you're constantly having to put yourself in a new uncomfortable position, because that's where you'll reach your biggest heights. And we've talked about some of the biggest things I did last year. I was very uncomfortable, but I also was able to push myself to a different level. So get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and if you ever get comfortable in your craft, you're probably not growing.
Calvin, thank you so much for joining the Jangueo. It's so great to hear your inspiring story and learn more about you. And I intentionally call you Calvin because that's who you are, right?
No one ever calls me Calvin.
But I'm calling you because that's who you are. That's your essence. And to the world, you may be known as DJ Tryfe or America's DJ. But at the end of the day, you're human. You are a person, and you are killing it. So thank you so much for being here. And if you want to stream this episode, you can do it on Fox Local, free for your smart TV and your phone. And this is El Jangueo with Jonathan Mejia.